How many times have you sat down knowing exactly what to do, your setup, your exit, the rule you set for yourself the day before, and then watched yourself do completely something different? Today, we are sitting with that gap between knowing and doing, and why more rules and more information never seem to close it. You are listening to the Confidence in Trading podcast. I am your host, Agnieszka Wood, a trading mindset coach and a seasoned day trader with 15 years of experience. In this podcast, we explore the psychology and human element of trading, because how you think and feel determines everything. Together, we explore the layers of compassionate discipline to help you navigate the emotional ups and downs of trading with calm, consistency, and confidence. Whether you are just starting out or you are a seasoned pro, this podcast is your trusted companion, providing support on your trading journey. Get ready to master your mindset and trade like the trader you know you can be. Welcome to episode 82. This one is called The Single Shift that helps traders go from knowing to doing. And I want to start with a question I just asked because I think it lives in almost everyone who trades, even the people who would never say it out loud. There's a particular kind of trader I want to describe to you, and I want you to notice if you recognize any of yourself in this, because I see this person constantly, and for years, I was this person myself. This is someone who has done the work. They have taken the courses, more than one, probably several. They've read the books. They can explain risk management to you over coffee so clearly that you would think you were talking to a professional educator. And they can look at the beginner's screenshot and tell you in about 4 seconds exactly where it went wrong and what that person should have done instead. The knowledge is genuinely there. It's not something they pretend. And that's what makes the next part so confusing. Because the same person with all of that understanding will sit down at their own screen and exit a winner far too early out of fear. Or they will size up after a loss in a way they have warned other people against it. Or maybe break the exact rule they reviewed in their journal that very morning. And then they sit there afterward, looking at the trade with all of that knowledge fully intact, asking themselves the oldest question in trading, which is, I know better than this. So why on earth did I just do that? I want to tell you my own version of this because I didn't come to trading empty-handed. And that's the part of why it humbled me the way it did. I had spent about 15 years working in NLP and performance psychology before trading became serious for me, which means that I had spent more than a decade digging into how the mind works, how beliefs drive behavior, how the nervous system reacts under pressure, how people quietly sabotage the very thing they say they want. And when I walked into trading, first of all, I didn't realize that I would need all of that. But because I am a high achiever, I genuinely believed that this was what was going to carry me. And I truly felt I had something extraordinary that would make me different from the rest of 95% of traders who fail. And honestly, there was definitely some arrogance in that. Anyhow, I cannot tell you how many times I had set my rules the night before, calm and clear and completely committed to them. But then the next day, in a moment that actually mattered, I would watch myself do the opposite. And I knew, even as I was doing that, exactly which rule I was violating and exactly what I should have done instead. That was a strange kind of humbling. I had the knowledge, but the knowledge was not the thing that was helpful with what I did at the desk. There is something almost cruel about this feeling and the distance between knowing and doing. If you are someone who is a high achiever, and if you got to where you are in life by being smart and prepared and willing to study, And that's the whole strategy that worked for you. Now you are faced with something challenging, something you've learned, you applied what you've learned, and you cannot succeed. And then you repeat it over and over, just like you did in your career and maybe in your business, the things you have built. But then in trading, things just become more difficult. And then when you start to struggle, you reach for the same tool that you have always reached for, which is learning more, study harder, get more information. And then you discover something that genuinely doesn't make sense at first. All the discipline that made you successful in life, the same one that you used for so many years, that proved itself to be right, the same discipline is keeping you stuck in trading. The trades that have never let you down, not once, are suddenly not translating. And nobody warned you about that. And so the natural conclusion is that you just haven't learned enough yet. So then you go and you learn more. And then the gap stays exactly where it was. So, what is that gap really? How does a person who genuinely knows the right thing to do, who could pass any test you gave them on it, become someone in a life moment who does the opposite and then snaps back afterward into the version of themselves who knew better all along? That's the question I want to sit inside today, because once you see what's actually creating that gap, you stop trying to close it with the one tool that was never going to close it. And there's another reason this matters, because the behavior is rarely the actual problem. The behavior is just a symptom. It's a signal that something deeper is happening underneath the surface. And until you truly get it, you truly understand what's driving it, you will keep fighting the symptom while the real cause remains untouched. So let me show you what's actually happening, because once you see this piece, the whole thing starts to make a different kind of sense. Here's the thing most traders never think to look at. And I missed it for years, even with everything I supposedly understood. So let me walk you through it. What you know and what you do under pressure are not run by the same part of you. There is a part of you that holds your plan, your rules, your risk, your sense of yourself as a calm and capable trader, the whole story of who you intend to be when you sit down. That part is thoughtful and deliberate. And importantly, it's a little slow. And then there is another part of you, an older and much faster part, that has absolutely no interest in your rules and isn't trying to trade well at all. All it does is trying to get you out of discomfort right now. When the day is calm and nothing is at stake, those two parts seem to agree with each other. So you feel like the trader who knows the plan is the one in charge. That's the version of you that writes the journal entry in the morning. But the moment the market moves and there is real charge in your body, and it could be a loss or a missed trade, possibly a position going the opposite direction you anticipated, that pull of urgency or frustration or the fear of missing something, that faster part answers first. And it's quicker than thought. It doesn't wait for your permission, and it acts before the part of you that knows the plan has even finished forming a sentence. And as it takes over, the knowing part doesn't disappear exactly, but it just gets quieter and slower and further away, almost like it's calling to you from another room. This is the difference between trading from a survival state and trading from a regulated state. In a regulated state, the part of you that knows is online and in the chair. In a survival state, the part of you that reacts has the wheel, and the knowing part is in the backseat watching, which is exactly why you can be fully aware that you are breaking the rule at the very moment you break it. You're not confused about the rule. You're just not the one driving. And that's important because most people assume the problem is the behavior itself. So they focus on stopping the overtrading, stopping the revenge trading, stopping the rule breaking. But those behaviors are symptoms of something deeper happening underneath the surface. They are the visible result of the state you're trading from. And if the behavior is being driven by a survival state, then adding more knowledge doesn't solve the problem, because knowledge isn't what determines your actions in those moments. Your state does. The part of you that already knows the answer was never the issue. The issue is that in the moments that matter most, that part isn't the one in control. When you take another course and read another book, add 3 more rules to your plan, you are pouring all of that into the part of you that already knew the answer. You're feeding the part that wasn't the problem. So eventually you end up more educated and equally stuck. And now there is a new layer on top of the old frustration, which is, I know even more than I did before. So what is wrong with me that I still can't do it? Nothing is wrong with you. You have just been doing the work in the wrong place, handing more and more to a part of you that goes quiet at the precise moment you are counting on it. So if the answer isn't more knowledge, then what actually closes the gap? That's where compassion and discipline comes in. And it points at something most traders have never been told to look at. The bridge between knowing and doing isn't more effort, and it isn't more information. It's much deeper work that at first doesn't feel like the breakthrough that most people are hoping for. It's the work on your identity, who you are, how you see yourself, and story you tell yourself. You don't trade according to what you know. You trade according to who you are being in that moment. Here's what I've noticed in the traders whose behavior has genuinely changed through this work. Not the ones who white knuckled their way through a good month, but the ones who actually became different at the desk and stayed that way. They all describe some version of the same shift. At some point, they stopped experiencing their rules as a fence that somebody made them stand behind, a set of external constraints that they had to enforce on themselves through willpower. And they started experiencing those rules as simply an expression of who they are. And that truly changes everything about the life moment, because now breaking the rule isn't just a tactical mistake that costs you some money. Now breaking the rule feels out of alignment with who you want to be. And you are far less willing to deviate from something that feels like it's just true about who you are. Think about how this already works in the rest of your life. There are things you simply don't do, not because you are gripping hard and resisting the temptation every day, but because they are not who you are. They are not even on the table. You're not exhausting your willpower to avoid them. There is just no pull there because doing the thing would feel like stepping outside yourself. That's what the rule feels like once it has become part of your identity rather than a restriction placed on top of it. And that's the level the work actually happens on, which is your trader's identity, one of the pillars of compassionate discipline, who you actually are when you sit down. Underneath all the goals and all the ambitions, the rules follow the identity, they don't create it. Now, you cannot force that shift. And this is the part that matters most, because the instinct of every high achiever listening is going to be to try to force it, to grip harder, to be tougher, to crack down on yourself until this new identity takes hold. But pressure is the very thing that throws you back into survival, into that fast reacting part, which is the opposite of what you want. You don't build a new identity by being harder on yourself. You build it the way personal integrity gets built, through small promises to yourself that you actually keep one at a time, until you have accumulated enough evidence that you start to believe you are the kind of person who does what they say they'll do. That's the relationship you are really building here. A relationship with yourself that over time you genuinely don't want to violate. And that's why I keep saying you don't need to control yourself. You just need to support yourself, because control comes from pressure and it runs out. But support is what actually lets a new identity take root and hold under the only conditions that count, which are when the pressure is on. So let me give you a few questions to carry with you this week, because this is the kind of work that doesn't happen during the podcast. It happens at the desk, and it happens in how you talk to yourself when no one is watching. I want you to hold two versions of yourself in your mind for a minute. There is the trader you actually are right now when things go wrong. Not on a good day, but in the hard moment. And I mean, in terms of character, how you speak to yourself, how you show up when there's pressure on you. And then there is the trader you want to become. And again, I don't mean in terms of profit or skills. I mean, as a person at the desk. And just notice the distance between those two. And notice that the distance probably isn't knowledge gap. It's an identity gap. Just sit with it for a moment and then carry these 3 questions through your week. First question, just think of one rule you consistently break. And when you break it, what do you say to yourself right after? Is it shame, frustration maybe, or something that almost sounds like relief? Question 2, who is the trader you believe you are right now? And I mean, underneath the goals and the ambition, what is the story you are carrying about yourself? And question number 3, what would you have to believe about yourself for this rule to feel non-negotiable? And just notice what comes up when you hear that last question, because whatever comes up is what we are actually working with. And I want to leave you with this today. And I want you to actually let it land instead of moving past it too quickly. The gap between knowing and doing closes not when you learn more, but when you become more aligned with what you already know. And that's an inside job. It's deep work, and it doesn't always feel like progress in the moment, but it is where consistent traders actually come from. So if you have been judging yourself because you know what to do and still aren't doing it, stop making that mean something is wrong with you. Maybe you're not missing more knowledge or discipline. Maybe you have simply been trying to solve the wrong problem. Maybe what you are really being invited into is a deeper relationship with yourself. Because success isn't created by force. It's created through the small, consistent steps of becoming the kind of person who no longer needs to fight themselves every day. The kind of person whose actions gradually become aligned with what they already know. Thank you so much for listening to the Confidence in Trading podcast. If today's episode resonated with you, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and let me know what landed for you. It helps more traders find this work, and together we make a bigger impact. If you are new here, don't forget to subscribe so you can come back for the next episode. And check out some of the previous shows while you're at it. This is Agnieszka Wood from A Head Coach. Bye for now.